Betrayal doesn't start with cheating. It starts with a simple question. When the woman you love, the one you built your life around, suddenly asks, "You don't mind if I go to dinner with another man, do you?" Something inside you snaps. It's not just a question, it's a test, a provocation, or maybe a warning that everything you believed in is crumbling. What do you do when the person you worshipped so easily crosses the line? Stay silent? Swallow the pain? Or show her that the game of harmless outings comes at a price? This isn't just a story about love. It's about boundaries, betrayal, and what happens when a man decides he won't be someone's afterthought anymore. Buckle up. This is going to be brutal. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. Tonight, my wife, Caroline, radiated a liveliness that felt even more electric than usual. After we had finished dinner and settled onto the couch, she suddenly leaped onto my lap, her arms wrapping tightly around me as she showered me with kisses. Her playful nature had always been one of the things I adored most about her, but tonight there was an extra spark, an infectious energy that made my heart swell. She laughed freely, her joy filling the room as she held me close. In moments like these, I was reminded of the exact reasons I had fallen in love with her. 5 years ago, when our paths first crossed, my life had been in the midst of a major shift. Transitioning out of the Marines had been a challenge, and adjusting to civilian life felt like navigating unknown terrain. To regain a sense of purpose, I threw myself into physical training, channeling my discipline into weightlifting and self-defense. As a former drill instructor, I had taken pride in molding raw recruits into disciplined soldiers, but I had always sensed there was another path meant for me. My passion for fitness eventually led me to invest my savings into opening my own gym, a place where I could guide others on their own fitness journeys. The business took off quickly, demanding my full attention as I dedicated myself to its success. Standing at 6'4" and weighing in at a solid 255 pounds of muscle, I was confident in my ability to transform not just bodies, but also mindsets. In just 6 months, I witnessed remarkable changes in my clients, not just in their physiques, but in their confidence and strength. Their progress reaffirmed that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Then, one day, Caroline entered my life. She was the younger sister of one of my clients, and despite being much smaller and lighter than me, there was an instant connection between us. At just 22, Caroline possessed a youthful innocence that was endearing. While fitness hadn't initially been her passion, we found countless other ways to spend time together, our days filling with shared laughter and meaningful conversations. Before long, we were inseparable, and a year later, we were married. I never once questioned my decision. Caroline was everything I could have asked for in a partner, loving, affectionate, and fiercely devoted. Her boundless energy, though sometimes misunderstood by others, was something I deeply cherished. However, there were moments when her impulsiveness left me bewildered. She lacked the practical caution I sometimes wished she had. As a gym owner, I often found myself the focus of unwanted attention from female clients. To set clear boundaries and protect both my reputation and my marriage, I installed surveillance cameras throughout the facility, not out of distrust, but as a necessary safeguard in an industry where lines could easily be blurred. Caroline was fully aware of this and even found reassurance in monitoring the footage from home, knowing that everything remained professional. Financially, we were secure, my gym thrived, and Caroline supplemented our income with her career as a real estate agent. Together, we had built a life that many would envy. Then, one quiet Sunday afternoon, something changed. We were curled up in the living room, enjoying a bottle of wine, savoring the warmth of each other's presence. As always, Caroline was playful, giggling as she climbed into my lap, her eyes shining with mischief. But tonight, there was something different, something unreadable in her expression. With a teasing lilt in her voice, she said, Sweetheart, Kellen is taking me out to dinner next Friday. You're okay with that, right? At first, I laughed, assuming she was joking. But when she repeated the question, her tone dripping with innocent sweetness, the humor drained from the moment. You don't mind, do you? She asked again, her eyes meeting mine. A strange tension settled over me. Caroline, what exactly are you saying? She chuckled, as if my concern was unwarranted. Kellen from work invited me to dinner, and I told him yes, it's nothing serious. My stomach tightened. My mind struggled to process what she was so casually admitting. My wife, the woman who had vowed her devotion to me, was telling me, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, that she had accepted a dinner invitation from another man. Words failed me. Hold on, I finally managed, my voice strained. Are you seriously asking me if you can go on a date with Kellen? She tilted her head, flashing a reassuring smile. It's not really a date, just dinner, and maybe a movie. A suffocating pressure closed in around me. My thoughts raced, scrambling for an explanation that made sense. Caroline, the woman I trusted beyond measure, was trying to convince me that spending an intimate evening alone with another man wasn't a betrayal. Frustration bubbled inside me as I fought to keep my composure. Caroline, that's exactly what a date is, I said, my voice firm. You're telling me you're going out alone with another guy and you don't see a problem with that? She blinked, as if surprised by my reaction. He's just a coworker. We get along well and he makes me laugh. It's not like it's romantic, just dinner and a movie, she repeated, her tone light, as though this was a trivial matter. I stared at her, disbelief coursing through me. Caroline, I've never once considered being with anyone else. How can you even entertain this? Her gaze held a mix of amusement and exasperation. Dominic, please don't be jealous. To her, he was nothing, just an insignificant moment, a fleeting evening that held no meaning. That's what she assured me anyway. Nothing between us had changed, she insisted. It was just dinner, not a date. She hoped I wouldn't be upset. Her words hit like lead, dense and unforgiving. It wasn't jealousy that consumed me, but something far deeper, a gnawing sense of betrayal. The idea that she willingly chose to spend time with another man, even under the guise of innocence, unsettled something fundamental within me. I had never once wavered in my devotion, never so much as entertained the thought of stepping outside the sacred bounds of our marriage. Yet here she was, standing before me, asking for my blessing to go out with another man. I searched for words, but they evaded me, lost beneath the tide of disbelief, anger, and sorrow. When I finally spoke, my voice was tight, the weight of my emotions pressing down on every syllable. I don't know if I can handle this right now, Caroline. Silence stretched between us, thick and strained. My instincts, sharpened by years of control, urged me to remain composed, to respond with calculation rather than raw emotion. And then, as if clarity had struck all at once, an idea took shape in my mind. Without another word, I reached for my phone and dialed. Isabella? I greeted when she answered. Is your invitation for Friday still open? Isabella, a client whose interest in me had been evident for some time, barely hesitated before confirming. She was more than eager. With deliberate calm, I turned to Caroline and informed her of my own plans for Friday, plans that now aligned perfectly with hers. The moment the words left my lips, her expression shifted, indignation flickering across her features as she shot up from where she sat, her voice laced with accusation. You're seriously going through with this? She demanded, her anger cutting. With some woman who... I didn't let her finish. So, it's acceptable for you to have dinner with a colleague, but when I do the same, it's a problem? Her frustration was palpable. That's different, she snapped. I met her glare evenly. How, exactly? Because you've convinced yourself it's harmless? The hypocrisy of it all was staggering. I refused to let it go unchallenged. I watched as the certainty in her eyes wavered, as the confidence she wore like armor cracked. I pressed forward. Until now, I've never wanted anyone else, but you're the one who brought up the idea of stepping outside our marriage like it was nothing. Did you really think I'd just sit back and accept it? The room felt smaller, suffocating under the weight of unspoken truths. I could see the conflict in her, emotions warring beneath the surface. I still loved her, but something between us had fractured, something delicate, something vital. The days that followed were steeped in tension, in unspoken resentment and lingering uncertainty. Caroline tried to make amends, her apologies spilling out in tearful admissions, but each explanation only underscored how little she understood the gravity of her actions. Her words felt empty, her remorse inadequate. No matter what she said, I couldn't silence the image of her with him, couldn't erase the sting of her disregard. For the first time since we vowed our lives to each other, I chose distance. I moved into the guest room, unwilling to share a bed with a woman who had so easily dismissed my feelings. I needed space, clarity. Staying in our bedroom would only weaken my resolve, and I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. She had to understand the weight of what she had done. A thought simmered in the back of my mind, not revenge, not in the form of infidelity, but something deeper, a consequence, a reckoning. Then Friday arrived. The air was thick with unspoken words as the evening loomed over us. Despite her apologies, despite her insistence that she had reconsidered, she still planned to go. And I let her. Every instinct screamed at me to stop her, to demand she stay, but I refused to beg. Instead, I focused on my own preparations. I dressed with purpose, selecting my finest attire with meticulous care. I could feel her watching, the weight of her gaze pressing against my back. She didn't question me, though. Maybe, deep down, she already knew. "You're actually leaving?" I asked, though we both knew her answer. She nodded, avoiding my eyes. "All right then," I said, my voice even. "Enjoy your night." I turned to leave but paused just before the door. I needed her to feel the impact of this moment, to understand the depth of what she had set in motion. "Just so you know," I added, my tone cool, deliberate, "I won't be waiting for you tonight. You don't get to do this and expect everything to stay the same. I'm done." I didn't linger to see her reaction. The weight of reality settled between us, but this was necessary. If she wanted to test the limits of our marriage, she needed to understand that I wouldn't be the one left waiting. As I drove toward Isabella, I felt something unexpected, a sense of finality. This wasn't about the date itself. It was about something much larger. It was about self-respect, about drawing a line in the sand. I refused to be taken for granted. It was never really about Isabella. She was just the vehicle for the message I needed to send. Tonight was a statement, one I knew Caroline would fully understand, a direct response to the choices she had made. She had set this chain of events in motion, and now she had to face the consequences. She had crossed a line, and I was determined to make sure she felt the impact of her actions. To my surprise, the evening with Isabella exceeded my expectations. We had dinner at an elegant restaurant, the conversation flowing easily, followed by an exhilarating night of dancing. She carried herself with a kind of assurance Caroline had never possessed, unapologetic, bold, entirely at ease with her own desires. There was an undeniable pull between us, a chemistry I hadn't anticipated, but one that was impossible to ignore. Yet even as I lost myself in the night, Caroline remained a shadow in my mind. The woman I had vowed to spend my life with, the one who had so carelessly betrayed that promise, lingered in the recesses of my thoughts. After leaving the club, Isabella and I took a slow walk along the shoreline, the waves shimmering under the pale glow of the moon, the crisp night air wrapping around us. For just a moment, I let myself imagine a future unburdened by the past, what it would be like to move forward with someone like her. The thought was tempting, but I pushed it aside. This wasn't about moving on. This was about making Caroline see exactly what she had done. The night had been enjoyable, even meaningful in its own way, but that was never the point. When I walked Isabella to her door, we shared a lingering kiss, one free from the weight of history, untouched by past wounds. "Good night, Dominic," she murmured, her smile knowing before she disappeared inside. As I stood there, watching the door close, I realized that no matter what had happened tonight, Caroline still occupied my thoughts. I had done what I set out to do, yet the anger still simmered beneath the surface, refusing to fade. I wasn't sure what to expect when I returned home, but one thing was certain: Caroline would have to face the reality of her choices. The moment I stepped inside, the air felt heavy with unspoken words. She was waiting, her face blotchy, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "You're back," she said, her voice unsteady. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked past her, heading straight for the living room. She followed, but I refused to acknowledge her presence. The soft tread of her footsteps behind me was a sharp reminder of why we were here in the first place. "You went out with Isabella," she said finally, her tone tight, laced with the first hints of anger. "I did," I responded evenly. "Just like you went out with Kellen." The silence that followed was suffocating, her face twisted in frustration, her mind scrambling for an explanation. "So that's what this is? Payback? You think spending a night with someone else evens the score?" "Dominic, you don't understand. It wasn't a date. It wasn't what you think." I rose to my feet, towering over her. "You don't get to rewrite what happened, Caroline. You made your decision. Now you have to live with it, just like I do." Tears welled in her eyes as she pleaded, her voice shaking. "Please, Dominic. I made a mistake. I didn't realize how much it would hurt you. I never meant, please, don't shut me out." For the first time that night, something in me wavered, a flicker of sympathy. But it wasn't enough. "You want to fix this? You want to prove our marriage still means something? Then show me. Be the woman I believed in." My voice hardened. "Because if you keep treating me like an afterthought, if you keep making me feel like I don't matter, then we're done." Caroline collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. "I love you, Dominic. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted any of this. Then why did you do it?" My voice was cold, sharper than I intended. "Why did you think you could choose someone else and expect me to just accept it? You set this in motion, Caroline. Now, you're going to see what it means to play with fire." Without another word, I turned and walked away, heading for the guest room. I couldn't be near her. Not tonight. Not after everything. The wound was too raw, the betrayal too fresh. But this wasn't just about hurting her in return. It was about making her understand the depth of the damage she had inflicted. This wasn't about a single night. It was about everything that had led us to this breaking point. In the days that followed, I kept my distance. Every attempt she made to reach out was met with silence. She apologized, begged, cried, but none of it erased what had already been done. The betrayal replayed in my mind like a wound that refused to heal, a scar I couldn't ignore. And deep down, I knew the truth. There was no way back from this. Then came the moment we both knew was inevitable. She had asked for this conversation, still clinging to the idea that words might be enough to mend what had shattered. But I had already made my choice. "I'm done, Caroline." My voice was steady, firm. "This marriage is over." Her face crumpled, devastation breaking across her features. "No. Dominic, please, don't do this." I exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of finality settle over me. "You had your chance. You made your decision. And now, I'm making mine." Her tears fell freely, but I didn't look away. I had spent too long drowning in my own pain. It was time to walk away for good. "We can move past this. I love you. I never meant to lose you. But you did." I said, my voice steady, unwavering. You made your choice, and now I have to make mine. As I turned away, a strange sense of relief washed over me. It was over. The marriage had unraveled to its inevitable conclusion, and though the pain of it still lingered, I knew this was the only way forward. Caroline would have to reckon with the consequences of her actions, just as I would have to face my own. But this wasn't just about her betrayal with Kellen. It wasn't about punishing her or making her feel the weight of what she had done. This was about reclaiming something greater: my life, my sense of self, my dignity. And as I stepped forward, leaving her in the past, I made a quiet promise to myself. No one, not even Caroline, would ever take that from me again. This story has come to an end. Relationships are built not just on love, but on respect, trust, and boundaries. Betrayal doesn't start with physical infidelity. It begins with seemingly innocent choices that chip away at the foundation of a partnership. When one person prioritizes their desires over the value of the relationship, they risk losing everything. True love isn't about testing limits or seeking something new on the side. It's about choosing loyalty, not just in actions, but in thoughts. Because where there is no respect, love will eventually fade. Cherish those who value you. And remember, trust is easy to break, but nearly impossible to restore. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.